Yehei Adam Anvisan Ki Hillel. A person should always be humble like Hillel. Va'al Yehei Kaptan Kishamai, and he or she should not be stern like Shammai. And now we're going to have a story that will illustrate the meaning of this humility, the meaning of the sternness, and therefore to understand how we should and should not be. Says the Gemara, a story happened between two people. Turning to Daf Lamed Aleph on the top of the Amid, Shehimru Zed, they incited one the other, and Amru, and one told the other, Call Mishi Elech v'Yakna to Hillel. Whoever is going to go and provoke Hillel, meaning we're going to get Hillel to lose his temper, then Yitel Dalad Me'ezuz. Whoever will succeed in doing that will get from the other one who is making this wager 400 zuz. Okay, so one of the two took up the challenge. Amar Echad Mehem, Ani Aknetenu. I'm going to go and provoke. And says the Gemara that Oisa Hayoim Erev Shabbos, that day was Erev Shabbos. And the Hillel Chafaf Esroshin, Hillel was washing his hair. And halach v'avarel Pesach Beisim, during this time, don't forget, then they didn't have running water. Taking a bath, getting ready for Shabbos wasn't as simple and easy as it is nowadays. So he waited for that moment when Hillel would be the most inconvenienced by having anyone engage with him then. He passes by Hillel's door. Amar, and he says loud, Mikan Hillel, Mikan Hillel, is there a Hillel here? Hillel, don't forget, was the Nasi. He was the leader of the Jewish people. Everyone knew that this is the house of Hillel. And the way he says, is there a Hillel here? That in itself was a tremendous expression of chutzpah. Hillel did not react in kind. He's speaking chutzpahdik, there's no respect, let's just ignore him. No. Nesatev, Hillel put on his clothing properly. The Yatza Lekrasi, and he went out towards him, and Amarlein, he tells this person, Bini, my son, Ma'atam Avakesh. What are you looking for? There's a question that I would like to ask Erev Shabbos. Amarle, so Hillel tells a stranger whom he never met, Sha'al Bini, Sha'al, ask, my son, ask. The first wide line. And the first question was, why do the Babylonians have round heads? Amarle, to which Hillel tells him, Bini, this is a great question. A good teacher should always acknowledge a question. Every question really is a great question. And he answers, because their midwives are not skillful. And therefore, when the baby is emerging, they don't know how to exercise their craft in a way where there's going to be less pressure on the infant's head. But the opposite, there's a tremendous amount of pressure that they underwent. And this somehow affected the shape of the infant's head. We're going to learn the marsha inside, giving a deeper understanding, but we'll wait until we go through this person's other questions as well. So that was question number one. Okay, halach. So then the person went away. That means he has no more questions. So Hillel goes back and to take his bath. Gimtin sha'achas, he waited. A shah doesn't have to mean an hour. He made it a while. He wanted to make sure that Hillel is back, busy with his Erev Shabbos prep. And Chazar, and he returned. And Va'amar and Nachamo with the same chutzpah. Mikan Hillel, is there a Hillel here? Mikan Hillel, he asked it twice. Nesatev, Hillel gets dressed. Yatzal across it, he goes out towards it. And Amalei Bini Matam Avakish, what are you looking for? Amalei, the person tells him, She'ela Yeshli Yisrael, I got a question. Amalei Hillel responds, not, why didn't you ask me both questions at the first time? No. He tells him, Sha'al Bini, Sha'al. And this question is, my name, Shal Tarmoidian. Why are the eyes of the Tarmoidites? We just had them on Daf Chaf Aleph, remember that? Ad Tichla Rikla the Tarmodoi. Why are their eyes? Terutais literally means round. In this context, it was small and round. Amaloi, so Hillel tells him, that's a big question. And the answer is, because they live in sandy terrain. And in order for their eyes to be protected from the sand that's blowing, made their eyes become roundish and smaller. And again, that was the answer. No more questions. So halach, that person went away. The Himton Sha'achas, he waited to make sure that Hillel again gets back into his bath. And then he comes back and he says, Mikan Hillel, Mikan Hillel. So again, the Satei v'yotzel l'krosei, Hillel gets dressed and goes out towards it. And Amalei b'ni matam avakish, what are you looking for? Amalei she'ela yeshli lishlai, I have a question to ask. Amalei says, Hillel sha'al b'ni sha'al. And here the question is, Mipnei maragleim shal Afrikim rechavos, why are the African nations, peoples, feet very wide. Amalei to it, Shilo says, oh, Bini, She'ele Gedoyel, Shalta, that's a big question. Because they live in swamplands, and therefore, in order for their feet not to sink into the ground, for that, God made their feet very wide. Now, before we go on, for those of us who are using a Gemara that has the Mefarshim in the back, I'm going all the way to the Marsha. Here, Rami and the Vilna Shas on Daf Tes. And he begins, before he explains, by pointing out the following. What he wants to understand is that we just had in the previous sugya, that if someone is asking you something that's not connected to Torah learning, and if it's a foolish or a sarcastic question, then the Shlomo HaMelech says, Al ta'an, don't respond to him. And why is it that over here, it's seemingly non-Torah questions? Why did Hillel respond? That's a good question, right? So I'm reading inside the Marsha. So Yesh She'ela Bozem, says the Marsha, that the key in the She'ela Zu, Labu Divrei Torah Havya, Rak B'Milad Alma, Gavim Oyimtin and the son, even though he was humble and he was patient. Here, humble also means patient. So what? As we just learned in the previous sugya, that Shlomo HaMelech says, Al ta'an kesil ki ivaltoi. And therefore, says the Marsha, brilliant, that Venira Bazeh Loimar, the Metoich an Vesanusai, Loichashav Hillel, the Vadai Zebola Haktinoi, Be'elo Shilos. Hillel, because of his humility, didn't even think that someone else will be coming to try to instigate him to get angry. No. Ella Hillel saw Sheramas Loy B'She'elois Hanoigas B'Divrei Torah. That these three questions are, in a hinting manner, connected to words of Torah. And what are they? Says the Marsha beautifully, regarding the three midos ra'is that we learn about in Pirkei Avos. And one of the three midos ra'is of Bilam HaRasha, Ruach Gevaya, this is good, Ayin Ra'ah, and Nefesh Rachava, Sheniskiru B'Talmidei Bilam. That's the pshat. That why is it that the heads of the Babylonians are round? It means that their spirit is arrogant. I'm turning to the other column in the Marsha. And why are they arrogant? Because they're very wealthy. However, so that he's quoting here from other Chazal that the wealth of the Babylonians really came and went. You know, there's a wheel turning for everyone, but by them it really turned quickly. And why did it turn quickly? Because their midwives were not wise, which means that they were not educated to be humble. And arrogance with wealth is a guarantee that the wealth will be short-lived. And that's that they're round, that the heads were up in the air and it was rounded. Why did they become poor? Because they lacked humility. The second question regarding the eyes of the Talmud Doim, says the Marsha, the second piece over here, that the eye refers to that part of the body that goes after Zunus, right? The ayin royev aleit choymed. And why are those people always running after sexual desires? So the Marsha says, so he answered, because they live bein hachoylois. Choyl means chulin, that there's no kedusha in their lives. That when a person imbues their lives with some kedusha, that lifts the person up, so they don't become so much drawn down. But since they had everything that they did, they were bein hachoylois, not kedusha here, not kedusha there, so they became en ganzen vergrabt. And the third, right, why are the feet of the African very wide? So that says the Marsha, Hillel understood that they are referring to the third bad midah of Nefesh Rechava. Nefesh Rechava is to be constantly running after money. And that's why feet is an expression that money puts a person on his feet. That's the Reglayim Rechava. And the pshat is because they live in Bitzei Hamayim. In other words, they live in a place in Africa. And the Marsha says that who moved to Africa? The Canaanites, when we conquered Eretz Yisrael. And the Canaanites were very much into theft, into robbery, because they were always money pursuing. So he told them that because they live amongst nations that are descendants of the Canaanim, that have the midah of being Ganovim and Gazlanim, and it's all about money. So this, the environment affected them, that all the people there have a very wide foot. They're always occupied and running after the few dollars. Gavaldik. So this is the Marsha's insight, and therefore it is Divrei Torah, which is why he responded. Now, we're not over yet. So Amaloi, this is the final attempt of this man to get Hillel upset. right, to make Hillel lose his temper. I really have many more questions. However, back in the Gemara, is that you might get angry with me. So Hillel tells him, no, so Hillel should put on his cloak. A judge, when he sat in judgment, the Goyim took it from us, is that we had a special covering of our heads. And Hillel positioned himself with the greatest patience as a judge. Ask any question you want. Ask whatever you want. So he tells Hillel, are you Hillel? That he call you the leader, the Nasi of the Eden. This was the final attempt. In other words, he wasn't even acknowledging that he knew that this is the great Hillel. You're the Hillel? Hillel didn't get upset. He says, yeah. If you are him, then may there not be many more like you amongst the Jewish people. So Hillel says, Beni, my son, why do you say that? So the man responds, because of you I lost 400 zuz. In other words, he revealed to Hillel the wager, and he just lost the wager. So Hillel responds to this person that you should know, you should always be vigilantly guarding your disposition. Never get angry. And even if because of Hillel someone will lose not once 400 zuz, but twice 400 zuz. Why did Hillel say that? I'll tell you why Hillel said that. Because this man, if he would have won the wager, he would have gotten 400 zuz. Not only is he not receiving 400 zuz, he's also now going to be out of pocket 400 zuz. That's really one way of losing of a wager. You lost double. Let you lose double, but Hillel will never have a hakpada. So that's an intro to Hillel's characteristic of being extremely humble. And you can also touch the word anvisan here as patient. We have the same word used in other times in Chazal, that anivus doesn't only mean humility, it also means extremely patient. And this now will lead us into the famous 3 stories of 3 different circumstances where someone who wanted to convert, how they approached Shammai, what Shammai responded, and how they approached Hillel, and how Hillel responded to them. The story with a guy, that came before Shammai, and Amar Lo, and he tells Shammai, how many titles do you have? Amar Lo, Shammai responds, Shtayim. What are the 2 titles? Titles Shebechsav and titles Shebal Peh. Now, really, sometimes we find that there are 3 titles: the engraved title, the written title, and the oral title. But for whatever reason, Shammai told him here the Torah Shebechsav and Torah Shebal Peh. Amalei, to which this Nachri tells Shammai, and this response is prevalent ad hayoim hazeh. Shebechsav ani mamincha. Yeah, I believe you that there's a written one, meaning that the written one is divine. Yeah, the Bible is divine. But the Talmud, the oral Torah, that's not divine. That's the human mind. But Shebal Peh, ani mamincha. I don't believe you that God gave the Torah Shebal Peh. And then he continues, Gayereni, convert me, almanas, on the condition, shetilamdeni Torah Shebechsav. I'm willing to accept the Torah Shebechsav, and if you're good, I'm good. Please convert me just for the Torah Shebechsav. So what did Shammai respond? Go arboy. Shammai berated him. Shammai spoke very strong words with him, and vohoitzioi benezifa. And he sent him out. He sent him out in a non-nice way. Why did Shammai respond with such gevura? So Rashi, 9 lines from the top of the Amid, we learned it not that long ago in Bechayris, reminds us, we learned in Abraisa, on the Flamin Amid base, that if someone is coming to become a ger, and he says, I'm going to convert and I'm taking upon myself everything aside of one thing. So in the Kabbalah, you don't receive him, you don't accept him. So he wasn't accepting one thing, he wasn't accepting the whole thing. So Shammai pushed him out. So this person went to Hillel, and Gayere. Hillel converted him. Now, Yoimakama the Marsha in all of these stories says that the next conversation that is taking place did not take place after he was actually converted. Gaide says the Marsha is that Hillel accepted him to start learning for Giur. Okay, you only want to do Shabbos, that's fine. Join. And now when he began preparing for his conversion, Yom Kama, the first day, Amalei, Shammai, Hillel tells him, he begins teaching him how to read. So he points to the letter Aleph, you know what it looks like, and he tells him the name. This is an Aleph, that's a Beis, that's a Gimel, that's a Dalet. L'machar, the next day, apich, he showed him the same form, and instead of calling the aleph an aleph, he calls the aleph a taf. Instead of calling the beis a beis, he calls it a shin, and then a reish, and then a kuf. So Amalei, so this person was intelligent. He remembered the class of the prior day. He tells Hillel, yesterday you didn't tell me this. Amalei, so Hillel says, well, lav alai didi kosamach. Don't you have to rely on me for me to tell you what is an aleph and what is a beis? That's not written, that's oral. Even the names of the letter is oral. There is no written without oral. So the alpen nami, semaichalai, rely on me for the whole Torah Shabbat Peh. You can't have a Torah Shabbat without a Torah Shabbat Peh. Gavaldik. And obviously that person accepted that, and ultimately he converted. And we'll come back to him in a moment. Now we'll go to another story. Another story with another non-Jew. He came to Shammai. And Amar Leini tells Shammai, Guy, you didn't convert me. On the condition that you are able to teach me the whole Torah. While I'm standing only on one leg. We all heard the story. So what did Shammai tell him? Well, Shammai did not give him a verbal response. Shammai gave him a experiential response. He pushed him out. Shammai was holding a ruler, an instrument that's used in building to make sure you're building it the right height, not too high, not too tall. And he took that instrument, and with it, he pushed him out of his house. Says that Rebbe, that Shammai here did not expel him. He wanted to know the whole Torah on one leg. Shammai gave him the whole Torah. You know what the whole Torah is? If something does not belong in your house, get it out. The whole Torah is you exercising your power of Gevura, and you knowing what is right and what is wrong. And don't come and say, oh, it's so hard. No, if it's wrong, out. That is what, Shammai's response was responding to his question. He just didn't grasp it. He thought he was just being kicked out. But Hillel, he came to Hillel, and Hillel now converted him. And again, the Marsha says, not he first converted him. He accepted him to the yeshiva, forgave him. And now he began giving his lessons. So, but he has to give him the first lesson was to respond to his question. Tell me the whole Judaism when I'm standing on one foot. So Amaloi, so Hillel tells him, that which is hateful to you, don't do to your fellow. This is the whole Torah, and and everything else is a perushal. And now go and learn Zilgamar. And as we know, again, the Rebbe points out that this is a much greater statement than we have from the later generations from Rabbi Akiva. When Rabbi Akiva says that zeh klal gadol b'Torah does not exclude that there can be another klal gadol. There can be a few klal gadol. But this expression, that this is the whole Torah and everything else is just an interpretation, this is the strongest expression that we find saying the same statement in the positive. There's a reason why Hillel said it in the negative, but the positive of this statement is that this is kol ha-Torah kula. And as we all know, the kasha is, how can be kol ha-Torah kula? Mele, if you want to divide the whole Torah into categories, ben adam lachaverei uben adam lamakim. So yeah, v'ahavta l'reacha kamecha is the whole klal of all the ben adam lachaveres. But how is v'ahavta l'reacha kamecha a klal to my putting on tefillin, or to my observance of Shabbos, or to any other mitzvah that's ben adam lamakim? And this answer is addressed by the Alter Rebbe in the beginning of Perek Lamed Beis and Tanya, when the Alter Rebbe says that when a Yid finally chaps that there's two parts to me, and my animal and physical part is my lower part, and not all of it is so great and so good. And the reason why I always have the power, and therefore I should always be besimcha, is because there is another part to me, and that is my godly soul. And the moment a person makes from their godly soul their ikir, and everything else is secondary, then they are able to rejoice with their ikir, because that's basically who I am, in spite of the fact that there are many flaws to many other parts of me. And only when a person makes one's neshama the ikir and everything else tafel, then and only then, as the Alter Rebbe explains, can you really fulfill the mitzvah of v'yahavta l'reacha kamaycha? Because how can I really love you the way I love me? That's physically impossible. I will always love me more. And the Alter Rebbe says the answer is because you and me are the same. Because as far as our neshama is concerned, we have the same neshama. So you and me were part of one. And this concept of making the neshama the ikir and everything else secondary, that's kol ha-Torah kula. Ba'ayin sham, the golden words of the Alter Rebbe, how he explains how taka this is kol ha-Torah. Okay, that's the second story. Now we're going to the third story. Shuv Ma'aseh ben Achriyacha, that was going Achrei Beis HaMedrash, that he was going behind the shul, and he overheard Kol Sefer. There was a scribe writing a Sefer Torah, and as a scribe writes, you should just know a scribe doesn't never write Baal Peh. He has to write from another book, and not only that, he looks inside the book and he says the words when he writes them down again. And he was saying, the words of Parshas Tetzaveh, that should be made with the big day now, Kohuna Gedoyla, the Choshen and the Ephod, etc. Amar, who he heard that, and he says, "Hello, me, who gets to wear these garments?" Amar, so they tell him the Kohen Gadol. Amar, so he said to himself, let me go and convert. In order for them to appoint me, I want to wear those garments. Okay, Amar, at least he was honest, and he told Shammai, I want you to convert me. In order for you to make me, or for the Chevra to make me to the Kohen Gadol. So here again, and the pshat is that the beginning of everything, right? What did we also just learn in the last year? That today, that's soiv davar hakoil nishma. And what is that? As elikim yira. And as Chassidus explains, yira is connected to bittul. The beginning of everything is to be batel. He's beginning his Yiddishkeit with arrogance. I want to be the Kohen Gadol. That has to be pushed out. Me has to be expelled in order for a gear to happen. He didn't understand that. He thought he was kicked out. He came in front of Hillel. And again, Hillel accepted him. Coming to the Ger's yeshiva. Amalei. So this is before the gear. He begins to learn. So he tells him, listen here, you are coming here because you want to be the Kohen Gadol. Fine. Will we ever appoint a king, Elami, only if someone is familiar with all of the ceremonies of royalty? You want to join the royalty of Kohen, you got to learn about them. So you have to start, not the way other potential converts start. You got to start learning right away, get to what you want. Start learning about the Kohen. So he went and he started to learn Chumash. The moment he came to the pasuk in the beginning of Bamidbar, that the Hazor HaKorev Yumais, that a non-Kohen, Zor means a stranger. Who's a stranger? Any non-Kohen who even comes near is put to death. Amar Lei, so he asked the teacher, Mikrozel, mi Nemar, who's the Zor? Who's the stranger? Amar Lei or Amru Lei, so they tell him, Afilu al David Melech Yisrael. Even of King David is Malchus Yehuda, he's not a Kohen. So when he heard that even David HaMelech is called a Zor, and if he even comes near to doing what a Kohen does, he's put to death. So Nasa Oisager, Kalvachim Ba'atzmai, Uma Yisrael, that they are called Banim Lamakim, they're called God's children. And not only that, but because of the love that God has for us, God continuously calls us B'ni B'chari Yisrael, my son, my firstborn Israel. Yet, it says regarding Eden, if they are not from the line of Kohuna, Yumas. So then Ger Hakal, Shabbat Makli with Talmida, he's coming with the staff and traveling bag. He's beginning everything. Alachas Kama V'Kama. So he right away understood that he may never become a Kohen Gadol, but he was already in, and they got him, and ultimately he also converted. And now Baal Lifnei Shammai, he came back to Shammai, and he had a taina. Amar Le Klum Roy Ani Lias Kohen Gadol. Was I even worthy of being a Kohen Gadol? No. In other words, you should have explained that to me. Why did you push me out? Now, Shammai, the way the Hasidus explains, didn't push him out to expel him. Shammai was showing him that arrogance has no place if you want to be a Yid. That goes to me. You're born a Yid. You got to be humble. But he didn't understand that. But he tells Hillel, Amalei Anvesan Hillel, you humble, you patient Hillel, that may blessings be put on your head. Shehi Kraftani, that you brought me near under the wings of the Shechina. And says the Gemara that Liyamim at a time, all of these three, after they converted, they got together and they all shared their experience. And they all went to Shammai and then they went to Hillel. And they concluded and they said that Kaptanus Shel Shammai, that the sternness of Shammai, Bikshal Turdeni would have expelled us. So here you see that you have to always begin. You got to begin with kindness and with humility and with patience. That's the beginning. But let's not forget, my friends, that that's the beginning. But the end, we all know that after Mashiach is coming and Mashiach is coming, we're going to paskin like Beis Shammai, because after we have to graduate from this. And once we go to the next level up, then there is a place for Hillel, there's a place for Shammai. Hillel's place was in Golus, and as we enter the era of Mashiach, we have to have more capacity of becoming more humble and hearing the emes, even if it hurts. V'chulei v'chulei. Okay. I'm sorry, I didn't. That Kaptanusa shel Shammai bikshal litur denim in ha'olam, and Avon Sanusa shel Hillel kervanu tachas kamfi hashchina. Okay, says the Gemara. Now again, we learned on Daf Lamed over the base, right? Soif dover akrol nishma es holikim yira, and that's the beginning of everything. To have yira shamayim. Yira shamayim doesn't mean to be afraid of punishment. That's a selfish fear. If it works, it's good for you, but it's a klipadik fear. Having real awe and reverence of God is the beginning of everything. And now we're going to have a beautiful sugya, how Yira Shamayim is infinitely more important than learning Torah. We're not, God forbid, minimizing learning Torah. But in order, the beginning, before you learn Torah, you have to have Yira Shamayim. In order for you not to forget your learning, you have to have Yira Shamayim. V'chulei, v'chulei, let's begin. Amanei Shlokish. First wide line. What's the meaning of a pasuk? There's a pasuk in Yeshaya. And this pasuk is literally written at the time after Sancheriv was miraculously defeated. And there was a tremendous amount of peace and calm and tranquility in the Holy Land. And the Yidden wanted to know, what is it that we need to do that God should continue to bless us, that it should remain tranquil and peaceful and blessed in the Holy Land. So here's the answer, that v'haya emunas itecha, that the stability of your time, and chap these words, and choisin yeshuos, and the strength of salvation. You know what that is? It's chachma v'das and vig goimer with a vav. We already spoke out that not goimer. Goimer is etc., but the continuation is not that important. Whenever you add a vav, vig goimer, the pasuk continues that yiras Hashem hi oitzarai. So he mentioned two things, that in order to have the stability and in order to have strength, we have to have chachma and das. That refers to learning Torah. And there has to be fear of God, but that the word hi oitzaroi, that this is our storehouse, is going specifically on Yiras Hashem. Now, before we go to the general, we're going to break down this verse, and the Gemara is going to show you that as Torah Shemal Peh was put down for the first time, it was divided into 6 orders. Really, there were many more. There were 600 Sedarim. But when Rabbeinu HaKadosh actually put it on paper for all of us, you have the Shisha Sidrei Mishnah, right? You have Zroyim, Moyed, Nashim, Nezikin, and then Kachim and Taras. Then later we have other ways that the Torah Shemal Peh was written down. The Rambam divided it into 14 categories. Then when we had the Balaturim, right, divided the Torah Shemal Peh into 4 categories. Be that as it may, this pasuk is an allusion to all of the 6 of the Sidrei Mishnah, all referring to Torah. So it's the word emunas. Emunas means literally faith. That goes to say there's Zroim. Why is faith connected to planting? So you have to look inside Tosfos, the small second Tosfos, because it says in Yerushalmi that when a guy plants, why does he put a seed, a kernel? You put a kernel of wheat, why don't you make it into flour? You know it's going to rot in the ground because there's a law of nature. The law of nature is that when you put a kernel into the ground, a whole stalk will grow out. That's not the way a Yid is allowed to plant. We're not denying that's a natural reality. But it's all God's doing. God chooses to work through nature also. So a Yid who plants, look inside the Tosfos, you know why you plant? When you put a seed into the ground, you don't put it into the ground and saying, ooh, naturally it's going to grow. When you drop something and it's going to fall to the ground, not because of the law of gravity, because God will make it go down. Yeah, God is always going to do it on a consistent basis. We call that nature. But a Yid has emunah when we look at nature. We right away link nature with God. That's why emunah is an allusion to the first of the 6, which speaks primarily about Zeraim, even though in Talmud, Bavli, there's very little on it. Right, we got away very easy. We just learned brachas, which had almost no Zeraim in it at all. But God willing, when we will come to learning Talmud Yerushalmi, oy gewalt, you have no idea how complex is the Gemara Yerushalmi, because don't forget that in Bavel, most of the mitzvahs regarding plantations were irrelevant. Trumas Amaisres, etc. All these things are only for the Holy Land. And then Midrabanan on lands close to Eretz Yisrael v'chulei. But in Bavel, they didn't spend that much time learning it, which is why there's no Gemara on any part of Zeroim other than on Brachis. But coming back over here, Emunah goes to Zeroim. Then the next word is Itecha. Now again, the literal taich in the pasuk in Yeshaya is the stability of your time. Itecha means time. So you know what time refers to? Seder Mayed. Because what does Mayed teach us about? About all of the mitzvahs that are time bound. They go with the time, the cycle of the day and the cycle of the year. Chaysen, which means strength, refers to Seder Nashim, because the strength of our lives is our family lives, our spouses and our children. That's our strength. So it goes to the Seder of Nashim. Yeshua, salvation, refers to Seder Nizikin. As Rashi says, when a person learns properly Seder Nizikin, they will know what to do and what not to do to make sure they do not get into financial trouble or not to undertake unnecessary financial obligations, etc. There won't be damages financially. Chachma goes to Kachim. That was in Hasidus, because Chachma is bittul. That's the essence of Chachma, and Kedusha is only Shaira where there's bittul. So Kedusha is connected to Chachma. It's Gavalik. And the last word Das, right? Chachma v'Das. Das goes to say the Taras, as the Alter Rebbe explains in Pei Gimel, that Das is Meloshen Iskashrus and Ischabrus, which means that if we allow the Kedusha to go into us, then we become pure. So what do we see? That the pasuk begins, we asked, what can we do to guarantee that this tranquility will continue? So the first thing he mentioned is learn Mishnah, it's learn Torah. But then he adds that Yiras Hashem, he oitzarei, but the real storage house of schusim that we need, that Hashem should give us continued tranquility, more than Torah, is Yiras Hashem. Gavaldik. Amar Rava says Rava, that B'sha'a shemachnisin odin ledin. These are the famous Gemaras. When we will be judged, and again, I said wrong in the intro, Mashiach is coming, we're not passing on, but there's going to be a time soon that there's going to be a big judgment, and a good way, and then we're going to be asked questions. So now at least we're getting a preview of the questions that we will be asked. They will ask the person. Question number one. Now these questions are recorded in other places in Gemara, and many times they are in different orders. We're learning now Shabbos. Here we go, a lot of questions. Number one, nosasa v'nosata be'emunah. Did you conduct your business faithfully? That's the first question. Faithfully means both with faith that God will bless you, like we mentioned, that it's not koichi v'oitzim yadi, and faithfully means honesty. It's one is connected to the other. Question number two, kovata itim la Torah. Did you have fixed times to learn Torah? Question number three, did you occupy yourself with having children? And as many point out, that the lashon is not whether you had children. Many people are not blessed with children. Baruch Hashem, now it's less. It's more rare that someone should have this challenge because of the gilui of God's kindness through medical breakthroughs. But osakta means, you get married, you got to make an effort to get married. You have to make an effort to have children. If a couple makes an effort, and God forbid they're not blessed with children, they fulfill this. They were osakta b'pirivya. And Hashem should bless everyone with virya v'rivya many times over. The next question is tzipiso liyeshua. Did you eagerly await the redemption, the coming of Mashiach? And Habashgacha Pratis, we are learning this on the great day of Yudal of Nisan. And who was like the Rebbe? Who is like the Rebbe? That is a role model for us for the tzipisa liyeshua. In other words, it's not if he'll come, when he'll come, I'm going to follow him. That's not tzipisa. Tzipisa means that we have to eagerly await his coming. And as the Rebbe says, that this eagerly awaiting in itself brings Mashiach yet one moment quick. And comes the next question. Pipalta b'chachma. The other question, Hevanta davar mitoich davar. I would like to suggest that chachma goes to Hasidus. Hevanta davar goes to Nigla. Did you learn Hasidus properly? Did you properly understand Nigla? All of these questions will be asked. Nevertheless, there's going to be one thing that they will look at, and that will make all the difference. Even if we were weak in all of the above, this is it. Yiras Hashem, that our treasure, that which will ultimately protect us, will be whether we lived a life imbued with Yiras Hashem. And Ve'iloi, and if the person did not have a proper level of Yiras Shamayim, of Yiras Hashem, then even if the answers of above are good answers, Loi, he's not going to be that, he won't be judged that favorably at that moment. And Mashal Adam Shamal Shluchai, a person once told his shliach, please take a large amount of my wheat and put it in my storage house. And the shliach did what he was asked. But then the meshalech asked him after the fact, did you put in it a little bit of chumtin? Rashi says chumtin is some sort of earthy, earthy, a earth that is salty, says Rashi, eretz melecha. Salt is a great preservative. So he asked him afterwards, did you add into that kur a little bit of preservatives? Amalei laughed. So the shliach says, you never told me, I didn't do that. Amalei, so he says, if that's the case, mutav im lo elesa, it would have been better if you wouldn't have done anything. In other words, it's such a given that you don't store anything without preservatives, and even though you were not told explicitly to do so, it's the most important part. Without it, everything will rot. In other words, even though that you don't have in this b'shasha machnisin adam ladin, you don't have whether you had yiras Hashem, but it's a given because without yiras Hashem, then how will a person properly conduct business faithfully if he doesn't have a life filled with awe of God, etc., etc. That's the base of all of the questions that we will be asked for. Tana Devei Rabbi Yishmael, the final line in the Amid. Speaking about this preservative, when you're making a sale, you want to be honest, and you're selling a quantity of wheat, quantity is known as a kur, you are allowed to have a kur minus this kav, not minus a kav, period, but the kav, instead of it being made out of wheat, you have a kav of this preservative. You don't even have to notify the buyer, because everyone wants to buy a product that has in it what is needed for it not to get spoiled. In other words, as we'll see, we're going to learn at Rashi and Daf Lamed from a base, that if a person learns a lot of Torah, but if they lack in Yiras Hashem, then they will forget their Torah. What keeps it preserved? Yiras Hashem. A person has a lot of Torah in him, but aim by Daf Lamed from a base, aim by Yiras Shamayim. But if he doesn't have Yiras Shamayim, he's like a treasurer. He was given the keys to the inner chamber. In other words, Torah is the keys to the inner chamber, but the keys to the outer chamber, which is Yiras Shamayim, he didn't get. So if you cannot get by the outer doors, you will never make it into the inner doors. In other words, the pathway towards Torah, that's his expression, is Yiras Shamayim. So Behei Oil, how will you get in? You need Yiras Shamayim, again, going back to the pasuk that we had in the Daf Lamed Beis, that Soif Davar HaKol Nishma, what was the first thing? Eswalikim Yirah. First thing is to have Yiras Hashem. Now we'll have another mashal, which adds, it's different. Machris Rabbi Yanai, Chaval, a pity al deles lei darta, a person who doesn't even own a courtyard, but v'tadla darta of it, but he's making a big gate to the courtyard, a gate going nowhere. Torah is a gate to the courtyard. The courtyard itself is Yiras Hashem. So now when you put these two examples together, in other words, Yiras Shamayim is the outer doors. Then you have the Tadal Darta, which is Torah, which is very important, of course. But even more important is the Darta itself. What's the ultimate goal? In the words of Hasidus, you want to be connected to God. That's the goal. And if you take out the Noisan HaTorah from the Torah, then you're left with nothing. Right. Says Rabbi Yehuda, the goal of creation is for everyone to have awe and reverence of God. As it says, that God made the world in order for us to be in awe of Him. Rabbi Simon and Rabbi Lazar says the Gemara, they were sitting together. Rabbi Yaakov Barach was walking nearby. Rab Simon and Rabbi Lazar, one told the other, let's stand up and give him honor. Why? What's the greatness of Rabbi Yaakov Baracha? Because he's a man who fears sin and not fears the punishment of sin. He fears sin itself. If the other person responds, I'll give you another reason why we should stand up. Because he's a Torah scholar. So the first person says, I'm giving you the real reason. That what the gvar dechil chatoinu. That's why we should stand up, because if he fears sin. And you're giving me a lesser reason that he's bar urian. he's knowledgeable in Torah. Again, another story to point out that Yiras Hashem is more important than being a Bar Urian. And now we want to know who was the one telling the other. Which one said Gvar the Chel Chatoin? Which one says the Gvar Bar Urian? So this time I'm going to prove to you that Rabbi Elazar was the one that said that we should stand up in front of Rabbi Yaakov Bar Acha because the Gvar the Chel Chatoin. The Amar Rabbi Yechanan Mishum Rabbi Elazar. That's the Rabbi Elazar. Ein lo yilakadosh baruch hu b'lami el yirah shamayim. All God has in this world are those who have awe and reverence of heaven. Shneimar, as it says, Va'ata Yisrael, right? Ekev, Hamishi. And now Moshe Rabbeinu tells the Yidden, Mo Hashem alekecha shel me'imach, ki im liyirav v'goymer. And now he quotes another passage from Eiyov, where Eiyov says, Va'yomer la'adam, hein yiras Hashem hi chachma. Now, hein, behold, hein in Greek means one. So the Gemara says that when Eiyov is saying that God is telling men, Hein Yiras Hashem Chachma, it means that Yiras Hashem is the singular importance of wisdom for man. In other words, we emphasize the importance of Yiras Hashem, or like the Rambam begins, right, his magnum opus, the Yad HaChazaka, that Yisoid HaYisoida is Va'amud HaChachmas, is Leda, etc. Okay, says Gemara right. Rabul expanded my what's the meaning of the pasuk in Koheles? Al tirsha harbe, don't be very wicked. What does that mean? It means you can be a little bit wicked, just don't be a lot wicked. What's the meaning? Al tirsha harbe. Asks the Gemara, harbe hu deloy lirsha. Or homa'at, yeah, lirsha, God forbid. Elo, it means gavaldik. And misha ochal shum, if someone already ate garlic, ubemele verecha noilev, his breath stinks. Is yachzer v'yerchol shum, should he tell himself, since my breath smells bad anyway, I might as well smell it up worse. No, no one says that. In other words, that Shlomo Melech is giving us advice that a person should not buy into the atzas hayetzer, since anyways I'm a failure, I'm anyways a sinner, I'm anyways this or that, the other, so there's no hope anyway, so I might as well sin more. Says Shlomo Melech, no, al tirsha harbe. You got to do tshuva for the past. We're not whitewashing the past, but bad is bad, worse is worse. Don't go from bad to worse. It's all connected to Yiras Hashem, because without Yiras Hashem, a person will keep on sinning. Dorash Rava, like the first white line, Baravula. What's the meaning of a pasuk in Tehillah Mein Gimel? Ki ein chartzubais lemoisam, for there are no ties that bind them upon their death. In other words, some people are aware that one day we're going to die. And that knowledge brings about a certain humility, and it helps a person become more refined. It makes us focus on that which is more important, because we are only here for a while, v'chulei. However, wicked people, right, he's saying they have no ties. Nothing is binding them to their deaths. And not only that, uvari ulam, that even when they are dying, their strength is still robust. What does that mean? So he says like this, God is lamenting that it's not enough for the wicked, that they're not fearful and not forlorn from the fact that there will be a day of death, but their hearts remains robust and expansive like a big hole. They don't care about the day of death. It doesn't put fear into them, doesn't put humility into them. I don't know, my Rabbi, my Dechsiv, Zed Darkom Kessel. Lamai, this is the way of a fool, right? This is their folly. What does that mean? That even though they know that eventually we will all die. But nevertheless, since they have fats on their loins, means that they're so corrupt in Olam Hazeh that they don't care about it. Now, Shema Taimer, they don't care about it because shikhi, man, they forget about it. They don't think about the day of death. No, even worse. Still yirtzu sell, even though they know they're going to die. But it doesn't have the koyach to move them enough to upgrade their behavior. And again, coming back, the solution for all that is for people to do what it takes to have a greater amount of Yiras Hashem. We are Hasidim, thank God. And the way we do that is by learning Hasidus, by being better connected to a Rebbe. All of that helps a person to have greater Yiras Shamayim. And that's the beginning and the end of all wisdom. Says the Gemara Vayter. Going back to the Mishnah, we had enough Chavtes Amud Beis, this whole sugya of whether I may extinguish a lamp on Shabbos. And Rabbi Yossi Shita was that if a person does it for any of the reasons mentioned, including because you want to save the lamp itself, or because you have Rachmanas on the oil, you want to save oil. In all these cases, says Rabbi Yossi, that you're putter. In all the cases, the only time you're going to be chayiv is if you extinguish the candle because you want to salvage the wick. Because now that the wick was first singed, now it is charcoal. Now it can be reused. So if you put it out in order to reuse it, then you're going to be chayiv. When we learned the Mishnah, we spoke out what Rabbi Yochanan will say now, that the Mishnah, Rabbi Yossi follows Rabbi Shimon. However, we'll see that really there are two ways of understanding the Mishnah, and Ula will actually hold that even Rabbi Yossi will hold Kishita Rabbi Yehuda, like we learned in the last year, that Malacha She'ein Tzricha L'Gufa will also be chayiv mida oiraisa. So says the Gemara, Rabbi Yossi, right? Keman Sfirale. Who does he go by? Ike Rabbi Yehuda. Then the question is, Ike Rabbi Sfirale. Afilu b'hanach lami l'chayiv. Then even if you put it out for anything other than directly wanting the wick, Malacha She'ein Tzricha L'Gufa is chayiv. So then psil and ameli potter. Then even if he extinguished the fire because he wants to salvage the wick as a further wick, he wants to reuse the wick, it's malacha she'ein tzricha l'gufa. We'll see from the answer to that. So it should always be potter. So the two answers. Again, we spoke when we learned the Mishnah. We said that Rabbi Yochanan. Now we're going to learn both. Amarula la'olam, like the Tanakama, that the Rabbi Yossi holds like Rabbi Yehuda. However, because of Rabbi Yossi, these are such important rules. Number one, that any labor that's done in a destructive manner, any act of destruction is certainly not a malacha biblically. However, rule number two, also a fundamental rule, any act of destruction that is let's say a prerequisite for the next constructive action. So you're doing something that is destructive, but it is needed in order for you to be able subsequently to do something constructive. Then we don't view the act as a destructive act. We looked at this act itself as a constructive act. And now rule number three. Now rule number three is Rabbi Yossi. When do we say that an act of destruction is viewed as an act of construction? If it's being done in order to build subsequently afterwards, that's only if what you will build afterwards will be in the same place. L'mashal, you have a building, you want to build a nicer building. So you are destroying what you have in order to build a greater building. That act is an isun mid'oraisa. You're destroying, yeah, but you're destroying in order to build something bigger. You need more room. So it's also called an act of construction. You know why we say that? Because you are rebuilding it in the same place. But if you do an act of destruction, even for the purpose of a subsequent construction, but the construction won't happen in the same place according to Rabbi Yossi, that act is not going to be an isun mid'oraisa. It's like asun midrabanan, but it's not asun mid'oraisa. You're not chayiv chatos. How does that connect to the wick? Think about this. What is the place you're putting out a fire to relight the fire? So what exactly, or where exactly is the place of the fire? We're going with the logic that the wick is the place of the fire, not the oil, not the keli, not the lamp, the wick. So if you're putting out the wick to relight the wick, so you're doing an act of destruction in order for you to do an act subsequently of construction in the same place. That's why you're chayiv, gewaldig. But in all the other cases of the Mishnah, you're salvaging the oil. Fine, you're going to use the oil. Salvaging oil is something constructive. Right now, you're not salvaging. Right now, you're putting out a fire. You're doing it to save the oil, but the oil is not in the same place of the fire. The only thing that's called the place of the fire is the wick. How great is that? Probably haven't tying in this whole mashal of the Yanuka, that the Shechina is the fire and the body is the wick, and the Ma'asem Tovim is the oil. Think about that. That the place of the Shechina is in the physical world. It fits Al Pi Chasidus beautifully. Okay, let's read it inside. So Nachamal, because of Rabbi Yossi, so said Manas Livnois b'Mekoymai have a soiser, but Almanas Livnois shaloi b'Mekoymai loi have a soiser. Beautiful. Amalei Rabba says, Rabba, hold on. Where do you get that from? Michti behold, kol malachis yalfinin lo mishkan. And over there in the Mishkan, think about it. They used to you can't say the word destruction, but they would take the Mishkan apart. That's a destructive act in order to rebuild it. But where did they rebuild it? They rebuilt it in another place. In the Mishkan, we traveled 42 masois. We put it down in one place. We built it where God told us to build it. And that is from where we learn all of the definition of malacha. So Amalei, so Rabbi Yossi responds to Rabba, no, Shani Hasam, the Mishkan is different. Because since it says, Al Pi Hashem Yachanu, that where did we actually rebuild it? Where God told us to rebuild it. So therefore, we built it in the same place. So we built it in the same place. We gave this mashal once on Shabbos. Imagine you go on a trip with your infant child. And a world trip, you go to every continent. You go here, you go there. When you come back and they're going to ask, and you went with your infant was in your arms. So when you come back from the world, you went around the world, and they're going to ask you, where did you go? Don't ask. I went to Europe, and I went to the Holy Land, and I went to Asia, and I went to Australia. And you're going to start to show the stamps in your passport and the experience. You were in so many places. If someone was able to ask your infant, where were you? He's going to say, I was in one place. Where was my place? I was in my father's arms, the only place. When we were in the desert, we were in God's arms. When a Yid lives that I'm living in God's hands, it doesn't matter if I'm here or if I'm there, I'm in the same place. So no matter where we built it, since we, Al Pi Hashem Yachanu, it was Al Pi Hashem. We were before where God told us to be, we are now where God was. We are always Al Pi Hashem in God's hands, and therefore it's called B'Mekaymai. Now, Rabbi Yochanan, we learned this when we learned the Mishnah. Rabbi Yochanan says, no, and the reason why he's spotted by all the other cases, other than if you put it out to salvage the wick, is because it's malacha she'eina tzricha l'gufa. Like we explained the definition of Rashi versus Tosfos, any action that's done to prevent something else from happening is called malacha she'eina tzricha l'gufa. You're preventing the lamp to crack, you're preventing the goyim to come and kill you, you're preventing the oil from getting used out. But what's about a psila? That's the whole part. You're not preventing the psila. You're putting it out in order to use the psila. And we're speaking about a wick that needs to be singed before it's used, and you singed it, and now it's already singed. In order for you to use it, now you put it out in order for you to use the wick. That's mamish malacha shetzricha legufa. Debahi afil Rabbi Shimon Moide to come a second mana. And on that, Amar Rabbi, you are right, Rabbi Yochanan, and I'll tell you why. Because the Mishnah says, the words of Rabbi Yossi is, Yachayev, because you are making charcoal. And if the first Ula would have been right, in other words, even Rabbi Yossi, according to all the holds like Rabbi Yehuda, the only reason why you're potter is because it's not the Mekaymai. So the wordings should have been since it is already a pecham. In other words, and now when you put it out, you can have some benefit from this charcoal. So it's b'mekaymai. That's why you're chayiv. You're not chayiv because why? It's not about what you intend when you're putting it out according to the explanation of Ula. You're chayiv because when you will reuse it, it is reusable. So it's not about your kavanah of action. It's about since it is already charcoal and thus reusable, and you will reuse it. That's why it's considered a malacha shetzricha legufa b'mekaymai. The fact that the Mishnah didn't use these words is a raya, according to Rava, that Rabbi Yochanan's interpretation is the correct interpretation, and therefore concluding everything, we began the sugya by saying that the Tanach follows Rabbi Yehuda. And Rabbi Yossi follows Rab Shimon. My friends, let us start a new sugya. It's a gevura sugya. And as we spoke out in the intro, that everything is b'ashgacha pratis. Everything happens when it's meant to happen. However, there is another rule that when a person is in a dangerous setting, then a person might be judged and might be found that he doesn't or she doesn't have enough merits to get them through this dangerous moment. Which is why we are told that one may never put oneself in a dangerous place. You can't argue why. Everything is hashgacha pratis. If I'm meant to live, I'll live anywhere. The answer to that is that there is a certain amount of divine intervention needed in a regular scenario. There is a greater amount of divine intervention needed in a more dangerous setting. And therefore, who says you will merit the greater divine intervention? Or who says you will merit a miracle? And therefore, says the Mishnah, that while women give birth, and as we'll have on Maflamed Beis, dafka birth, because that's when a woman is in danger, that if they failed in any one of the following three sins, then they won't have the merits that they need for protection during that dangerous moment, which is why, God forbid, sometimes a woman may pass away. And one of the three Avedas, al she'enam zehiras b'nida, because they're not careful enough in the laws of Nida, and in the great mitzvah of challah, separating a little portion of a dough made out of any one of the 5 grains, or ubahadlakas haner, or with lighting the candle. Now, I think it's Rabbi Kiva Eger, one of the Achronim point out beautifully that if it's benida ubachala, it should say nida chala and ner. Why are we emphasizing hadlakas haner? So just tie it back to the singeing. I think I mentioned it a few shiurim ago, that it is a good thing for the man in the house to be somewhat involved in the great mitzvah of Shabbos candles, either by setting them up, or as it used to be, by singeing the wicks before you put it out, and therefore then your wife lights it, because the mitzvah on them is only the lighting. But aside of the lighting, there is some of this mitzvah that we should have the seichel of being involved in. Okay, now the Gemara is going to begin. Nida maitama. Why punkt nida? Amar Rabbi Yitzchak, I'll tell you why. Because if a woman wasn't careful in the laws of nida, I mean, in the same area where she failed, if she passes away, God forbid, during childbirth, it's through the same part of her body. She's stricken over there. So the Gemara says, well, very nice, that only works for nida. But what about chala? What about l'lakas haner ma'ikala meimar? So now the Gemara goes back to all three. That this is kidadara shahu galilah, a certain Yid that lived in the Galil, once expounded in front of Rab Chizda, the last line of the Amid, that Amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu, God Almighty says, Revi is dam nosati bochem, that I have given in the human being one revius of dam to sustain life, and we know that, this concept. Even though there are many revius of dam inside a person, but we need one in order to be able to live. And God says, listen, I gave you a revius of dam, but don't forget that al iske dam izarti eschem, that I also, right, I'm reminding you to keep the mitzvah related to dam, referring to dam nida, daf lamed beis. Reishis karasi eschem, I call you the Jewish people. Reishis. Top Rashi says, like it says in Yirmiyahu, Reishis tfuasa. Right, we first Rashi in Chumash, right? Bishul beis Reishis. However, as God says, aliske Reishis izarti eschem, but regarding that which is also called Reishis, and what is also called Reishis, so that we have in Parsha Shalach, Reishis arisoy sechem, the mitzvah of challah. Weiter, God says, neshama shenasati b'chem, the neshama that I put into you is called a candle. And therefore God says, aliske meri zarti eschem, which is the mitzvah of lighting candles for Shabbos and for Yom Tiv. Im atem mekaimim oisam mutav. Im lav, God forbid, hareni noitel nishmaschem. And as Rashi says, look inside the top Rashi in the Amid, hareni noitel nishmaschem, that betroived, and if we lose our lives, we'll lose the revius of dam, and the candle will be put out, and we will no longer be called Reishis because we won't be alive. We are called Reishis when we are a living Jew. And says Rashi that the Nashim Nitztavu al Kach, on these three, Kida Amrinen and Midrash Bereshis Rabba, that he, Ibda Chalosi Shalodim, that it was because of the woman that the man, there was a failing in the man who was also referred to as the Chala of the world because God separated man from the earth. Shal Yod Nitra Dodam Rishon, Shenitram Kechala, and through the sin, the Chipsa Neder Shaloilam, and Veshavchai Damai. So as a tikkun, God gave her these mitzvahs, and v'oid, and all of these three are connected to tzarchei habayis, and that's given to the akeres habayis, to the ikar of the bayis, which is to the Jewish woman, and God willing to be continued.
Zaku Baruch.
Kazaku Baruch.
Ah.